Deep within the high-security archives of the Bureau of Engraving and Printing, shadows hide the remnants of a financial era that redefined the meaning of wealth and power. Before the year 1969, the United States possessed symbols of financial authority that went far beyond the imagination of the average citizen, held in secret, fortified vaults. These were not just currency, they were mechanical masterpieces and the pinnacle of printing engineering, representing the peak of a lost era of craftsmanship and trust. The denominations of $500, $1,000, $5,000, and even $10,000 were once the lifeblood of the most significant financial transactions in American history, moving between powerful institutions. Each digit was hand-engraved into steel, a process so complex that it made these bills virtually impossible to replicate by even the most skilled counterfeiters of the time. Step back into the roaring 20s and 30s, where the rhythm of the printing press was the heartbeat of a nation building its global financial dominance. Today, we peel back the layers of history to explore the 4 lost American banknotes that vanished from circulation, leaving behind a legacy of mystery and intrigue. Join Minted Forge as we enter the heart of the dollar factory to witness the birth and the sudden execution of these 4 legendary giants of paper money. The journey of every high-value note began in the hands of a master engraver, where cold steel was transformed into a work of complex financial art. Using tools unchanged for centuries, these artists carved microscopic lines that would hold the ink, creating the distinctive depth and texture of a genuine American banknote. This is the intaglio process, a specialized method of recessed printing where ink is forced into the deep grooves of the plate under immense mechanical pressure. The precision of the wipe is critical. Only the ink trapped within the hand-carved valleys of the steel will eventually be transferred onto the waiting treasury paper. The paper itself is a secret blend of cotton and linen, designed to withstand thousands of pounds of pressure without tearing or losing its unique physical integrity. Under tens of tons of force, the ink is literally pulled from the plate, creating a 3-dimensional texture that you can actually feel with your fingertips. This raised tactile effect is the fingerprint of a real dollar, a security feature born from the raw power of industrial machinery and artistic precision. The secret formula of the green ink, known for its durability and unique chemical signature, ensures that every note remains vibrant and recognizable for decades. Even in the early 20th century, the Bureau used complex chemical compositions to stay ahead of those who wished to undermine the value of the currency. Every portrait was a study in human expression and security, ensuring that the faces of leaders like Madison and Cleveland were etched into the national consciousness. The mechanical heartbeat of the BEP was a marvel of the industrial age, a factory floor where precision was measured in fractions of a millimeter. Every movement of the machines was perfectly timed, ensuring that the alignment of the front and back of each note was perfectly consistent across millions of sheets. Thousands of sheets passed through these rollers every hour, yet the margin for error was non-existent in a process where a single mistake meant total destruction. The moment of contact is where the magic happens. The paper absorbs the soul of the currency, turning a blank sheet into a vessel of immense value. Imagine seeing a single sheet worth more than a common worker's lifetime earnings, moving through the air with the casual ease of a newspaper page. The sound of the counting machines was the music of American prosperity, a constant, rapid-fire clicking that signified the endless growth of the nation's economy. Each note received its unique identity through a mechanical numbering system, a sequence that allowed the Treasury to track every dollar from birth to burial. Human oversight remained vital. Skilled technicians lived and breathed these machines, knowing that the stability of the dollar rested on the health of the gears. The atmosphere was one of intense discipline and industrial heat, a place where the physical reality of money was forged in metal, ink, and sweat. Every rotation of these giant machines was a commitment to the global value of the US dollar, a mechanical promise backed by the weight of the Treasury. Enter the gallery of the forgotten giants. First, the $500 bill, featuring the stoic portrait of William McKinley, the 25th President of the United States. Though high in value, this note was actually used in general circulation until it slowly phased out, often found in the wallets of the very wealthy. The intricate scrollwork around the edges was not just for decoration, it served as a complex barrier against those trying to replicate its majestic design. Next is the $1,000 note, bearing the image of Grover Cleveland. For many, this note represented the ultimate symbol of success and high-stakes business. Even at this scale, microprinting was used to embed security codes that could only be seen with a magnifying glass, a secret layer of protection. These notes were the primary tools for large real estate transactions and massive corporate deals before the digital age made physical transfer obsolete. The $5,000 bill featuring James Madison was a rarity even in its prime, mostly used for internal transfers between the various Federal Reserve banks. Its existence was a necessity for the banking system to move large sums of capital without the need for thousands of smaller, bulky bills. To hold one was to hold the equivalent of a small fortune in the palm of your hand, a physical manifestation of immense institutional credit. Finally, the king of public currency, the $10,000 bill. It featured Salmon P. Chase, the man who actually introduced the modern US banknote system. It was the highest denomination ever intended for public use, though it rarely left the hands of top-tier financiers and the Federal Reserve's elite. While it shared the same physical dimensions as a $1 bill, its purchasing power was 10,000 times greater, a staggering concentration of value. Even rarer was the $100,000 gold certificate, used only for official government transactions and never released into the hands of the general public. These giants lived in the shadows of the banking world, serving as the silent foundation of the American financial system's most critical internal movements. Together, they represented a time when trust was built on the physical perfection of paper and ink, a period of absolute financial confidence. Security at the BEP was not just about the machines, it was about the eagle eyes of inspectors who checked every single note for flaws. A single blurred line or a tiny ink smudge meant the entire sheet was marked for destruction, as perfection was the only acceptable standard for US currency. The standard of quality was so high that even the most minute deviation from the master plate was considered a threat to the currency's integrity. The final touch of authority was the Treasury seal, a symbol of the government's guarantee that the note was legal tender for all debts. That mechanical strike was the moment a piece of printed paper officially became money, authorized by the Secretary of the Treasury of the United States. Once approved, the notes were bundled into bricks, each representing millions of dollars, ready to be sent out to the regional Federal Reserve banks. These crates were sealed with steel, designed to be moved like heavy cargo, yet containing enough wealth to buy entire city blocks. The logistics of moving such high value required military-grade security, with every step of the journey monitored by armed federal agents. Paper trails were as important as the paper money itself, ensuring that every high-value note was accounted for at every moment of its existence. From the factory to the vault, the journey of the giants was a display of organizational precision and the immense power of the American state. But the reign of the giants was coming to an end. On the 14th of July, 1969, a decisive order was issued from the highest levels. The Department of the Treasury and the Federal Reserve announced that notes in denominations of $500 and larger would be officially discontinued. Across the nation, banks began the process of pulling these bills from their vaults and returning them to the government for destruction. The official reason was a lack of use, but the rising tide of organized crime and money laundering made these high-value notes a liability. Tellers were instructed to never let these bills back into the hands of the public, effectively making them ghosts of the financial system overnight. One by one, the four giants vanished from commerce, fading into the shadows of history as the era of electronic transactions began to dawn. The government began the systematic destruction of the return notes, feeding the masterpieces of the BEP into the hungry maws of industrial shredders. What was once the equivalent of a fortune was reduced to a pile of worthless confetti, ending the physical life of the legendary high-value dollars. By removing these notes, the government aimed to make it much harder for criminals to transport millions of dollars in a single small briefcase. The era of the four giants was officially over, leaving behind a legacy that would only be found in museums and private collections. Today, the few surviving notes are among the most sought-after treasures in the numismatic world, sometimes selling for many times their face value. To hold a survivor is to touch a piece of a forgotten America, a time when paper money was a direct reflection of industrial might. While today's printing technology is more advanced, the soul of the currency remains rooted in the techniques developed for those 1,969 giants. The power of the dollar continues, but the mystery of the four lost banknotes remains a fascinating chapter in the secret history of American money. Thank you for exploring the Dollar Factory with Minted Forge. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more secrets from the world of high finance.